The following video follows the guidelines of the Fair Use Act. Redline is property of Studio Madhouse, and all material such as clips, still images, and characters are property of Studio Madhouse and are being used only for commentary and review purposes. Please support the official releases and the streaming services. And before we continue, consider dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel to catch more reviews like this one. And don't forget to hit the bell. Welcome back, everyone, to our show. This time we are doing a film breakdown. We watched Redline by Studio Madhouse, directed by Takeshi Koike. If I mispronounced that, I apologized. This is a film from my list. All right, everyone. So, what are your first impressions?
I thought it was a pretty high-octane adventure. The pacing was pretty okay throughout. It did linger at the beginning and the end on a little too hard on its like action scenes with little to no breaks, but for the most part it was paced okay. Overall, I felt the movie was like a solid like 7 or 8 out of 10. It had a very confused plot. Like, it had, like, 4 different people who could be the antagonists. Instead of, like, focusing on one conflict, it spread that focus to, like, a lot of other conflicts, and that hurt the movie a lot.
I will not disagree with you there. I do kind of agree that in terms of its antagonist, it was all over the place. All right, Heather, your first impressions?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you guys there, too. Like, the movie, at first, you know, it takes you a bit to like, oh, okay, so sci-fi, it's one of those movies in which, like, you find out the plot as it goes. There's no, like, precursor, much of anything. And the movie, it was decent for me. It's not really something that I tend to watch. So that's probably why it's kind of hard for me to think of my first impressions. Just mostly because, you know, the whole greaser in the future motif with really ugly ass design aliens and
oh yeah,
like the animation is good. The art design is questionable at a lot of points.
I will not disagree there. The animation in this movie is gorgeous, but like the character design, it does leave a bit to be desired. It's like Space Dandy if it were more grotesque.
There's a lot of characters in which we only get like brief snippets about, so we can't really care about them too much because it's a movie. I don't know if this is like a previous franchise or something and we're supposed to know about them and other stuff, or if this is their own thing.
It's its own thing.
Yeah, to my knowledge, there is nothing other than this movie for this story.
Yeah, so that also I feel kind of hurts it. And of course, though, you're supposed to be focusing on the main characters, but if you're going to be introducing such bombastic, like, oh, these are really great racers, kind of, you know, maybe they didn't need that many.
It was like 10 racers, I think, or 8.
Yeah. Or at the very least, they didn't need to do so many segments. I get it's a sports thing, but that's probably another reason why I'm kind of like about it, because sports stuff for me, it's cool the first 20 minutes, and then it's like, okay, all right, I get it. All right, cool. It's just you're still driving. I mean, it's on an alien planet, sure, but it's still cars. It's just, that's kind of how I feel. And so it's just, I would say for me personally, in terms of story, art design, and everything, for me, just because it's not really my thing, I would probably place it at a 6.5 out of 10, because it did drag on some places as well. So
I will not disagree with you there. There are some scenes I felt like could have been shorter, and there are definitely some moments where plot threads pop up again, and you're just like, wait, that was a thing. And they bring up the fact, like, halfway through the movie's runtime, that before that, he and an old childhood friend of his were involved in a race-fixing scheme where they would get the bets, where they would get the odds all high up, and then JP would lose at the last second. You get so invested in like JP's story as a racer, and you wander to win, that you completely forget that, oh yeah, that's a thing. They used to fix races.
If I may, personally for me, this feels like this should have been paced out as more of a show rather than a movie. But maybe they wanted to make it a show and they couldn't get the green light for it, so then they had to squish everything into a movie like you see in like the failed Disney shows and stuff like that.
I think this would have made like a very tightly plotted 6-episode series.
Yeah.
Like an OVA or something.
Yeah, and like each like hour-long episode OVAs, yeah.
I mean, I can see why people like it. I can. I definitely can see why you like it, especially if especially if you're into the whole, not even just the racing thing, but just like the whole, underdog comes back to win the whole thing and get the girl. So kind of story. Though I could have done without the sudden, they actually have a bit of a past or something.
I would have liked it a lot better if either they focused on that or they just met each other during this race and this is a whirlwind romance. Like, again, it's another symptom of the plot just being too many things at once.
Which is a shame, because this movie does have the potential to be really good story-wise, because what we get, the characters that do get a lot of focus are very good. Like, JP and Sonoshi are both really good characters, and their stories are really good, and who I consider to be this movie's main antagonist, not the weird political stuff that they try to throw in with RoboWorld and stuff. That gets thrown out the window pretty as quick as it arrives. But I consider this movie's main antagonist, and who is an absolute Chad despite his dumb name, is Machine Head Tetsujin. He is an awesome character, great design, and on top of that, another thing, which is why I like him as an antagonist, that's all he is. He's an antagonist. He's like an antagonist in the sense that not that he is, evil or wants to conquer the world or anything. He's just a friendly rival, and I love that.
Yeah, but also, like, at the last bit of the movie focuses on, like, the neck and neck between JP, Sonoshi, and him, and, like, in my head, I couldn't stop thinking, are we supposed to care about this?
Yeah, it tries to juggle so much in terms of characters and story and plot, and it ends up falling flat in that regard.
Like here's a list of, like, all the antagonistic forces in this movie. We have the mob boss and the match fixing. We have the RoboWorld conservatives wanting to shut down the race. We have Machine Head and his dominance in like 50 Redline races before this one. And we have Funky Boy, who was in the movie for, like, I don't know, 3 minutes before just being jutted out of the plot entirely.
And, like, the other racers who were really only in there to show off, look how cool our animation is, and look how wacky our character design is. Like, the only one I can remember off the top of my head, just because I thought his name was hilarious, is Lynchman. But the rest, I could barely remember.
I appreciate that they made their character intros, like, more diegetic by using, like, in-universe, like, commercial spots to, like, introduce us to each of the racers. I think that was very clever. But did there have to be 8, and did they have to be that detailed?
I think they could have cut out at least 2 of them. There could have been, like, 6, and we'd be fine with that.
I think 4 or 5, honestly.
Yeah. Or at the very least, we didn't necessarily need an introduction, because really, their conversations, they don't do anything. They just are racing. You can figure out their shtick by just seeing it.
I think it also could have been better if they just focused specifically on Machine Head.
Really, what they probably should have done in terms of the story, like focus on Sonoshi, because, that's the one he lost to. Focus on JP, focus on Machine Head, because he's the favorite to win. And then maybe focus on, like, one other one.
And then give the others just like one sentence nods here and there as we cut between the scenes.
If anything, the one to focus on would be the ones that actually stopped the disintegration ray, since they actually did something plot relevant.
Yeah.
I still don't remember their names, though. That's the problem. Because I'm going to be honest, I don't care about Machine Head as much. They
didn't let us care about him.
I'm not really... I liked more actually the mob boss fixing races and with his childhood friend thing. I wanted to focus more on that, because then that would show, like, okay, so JP, who's always told to kind of lose, maybe he's like, you know what? Screw it. Screw the mob. I don't care. And if my friend really cares about me, he's going to have to get out of there.
I'm just going to say, Bota, you want to know how I know that plot works?
How?
Because we watched Megalobox.
It's literally the same plot as Megalobox, except instead of racing, it's boxing. Oh my god, you're right.
Yeah. I cared that a little bit. Like, Machine Head was a good in the moment antagonist, but I honestly don't know if I could have focused much more on him. Like, in the moment, yeah, he's an antagonist, but really he's better for in the moment of the racing.
I think he would have served better as like the secondary antagonist, and like the match fixing is just a part of that too.
Especially since they seem to hint that the mob boss actually used to be a racer, given that he's like this old guy with 2 hot ladies. It kind of looks like it was maybe the same person who went downhill.
Speaking of which, who the fuck was that racer in JP's flashback?
I know. That's why I'm thinking it's the mob boss. It's got to be, right?
I don't know. The movie doesn't tell me.
I know. Personally, yeah, they tried to throw in way too much. It feels like they're in the writer's room. Or like, okay, so what if they're on this robotic world, but the robots don't want them there? And like, oh, okay, what about that they do this mob boss thing, and then he's gonna blow up the thing with a bomb? Oh, what about the sexy girls with magical powers? You know, there's magic in this world of science? Sure, why not? It's aliens. And they mentioned him having some kind of love affair for some reason.
Yo, this, now that you're saying this out loud, it feels like a bunch of teenagers got together, wrote down what sounded cool, and threw it all together into a movie.
Japanese teenagers, because only Japan cares as much about the greaser look as Americans do. Freaking A, John Travolta looking main character over there.
I like JP's design personally, though. I thought that was really friggin' cool.
Quit trying to bring back the 50s. Grease lightning don't need to happen. He even's got the razor blade fucking comb. Like he's looking like that. He's looking like that teenager from Rugrats.
Oh my fucking god, you're right.
Also, quick little thing that I have to point out because it's bugging me. So the mechanic old man with 4 arms.
Yeah.
Isn't that just Studio Ghibli's Spirited Away coal guy?
Yeah.
Oh my god, you're right.
Just as a mechanic, though.
The difference is he has dog-like features here instead of spider features.
Yep.
So someone's a Studio Ghibli fan.
Yeah. I mean, I can kind of forgive all the problems with the movie's story because you can tell by just looking at Redline that the focus is not on the story. The focus is on the spectacle and on the animation. Because, my god, this movie's animation is spectacular. Like, it looks amazing.
Yeah, I felt like a lot of, like, not a lot, but some of the scenes were, like, animated on ones, dude.
It's an amazing use of bend and stretch style animation to convey speed.
Squash and stretch.
Squash and stretch, right. It's an amazing use of squash and stretch animation to convey speed and just to convey how fast these cars are going. And if they ever make an F-Zero anime again, provided Nintendo does anything with F-Zero in the future, it should look like this.
In terms of characterization, I will say they built JP, Sonoshi, and like his intermediate crew rather well. Like, even though I didn't quite get his like, oh, okay, the backstory thing, back and forth here like that, they did make them likable characters. Even his friend who was betraying him. Because, you know, maybe it's just because we were watching the English version and I'm hearing the smooth, dulcet tones of Liam O'Brien. but they did at least establish those core characters rather well. And if you kind of focus on just them, the characterization is well. Because even though the story is kind of a mess, I did watch it. I still wanted to like at least see the end result of these characters and see what would happen, which is what most people want to do.
With this movie's core characters, it does a really good job of building those characters and making you root for them. Like, you want to see JP win. You want to see Sonoshi win. Like, you really do get behind them. I know that you're not really into the whole sports underdog story, Heather, but like, you can't help it because these characters are written so well.
And it's not that I'm not into that. It's just that's every sports show and sports anime and just any sports movie, period.
So overall, I think the movie was okay. It's not gonna be like a must watch. Like if I need to have something on for background music or background sounds or anything. But it's not. It's something that I'm glad I've watched.
I was just going to say, I don't know if it's ever something I would want to watch again. However, I would recommend, especially if people are like huge animation fans, or like if you like sports anime, then this is probably the thing for you. Like, it's at least something that you know you can enjoy watching at least once.
Going back through it, there are a lot of problems with the story, but the character, like aside from character work of the main principal characters, there are a lot of problems with the story and it's all over the place. But you're not watching this movie for the story. You're watching it for the animation, because this movie really is beautiful in terms of its animation. Like what Heather said, if you're just a fan of like anime, cartoons, and animation, and you want to see something that looks nice and will be in your face and get your blood pumping for the next hour, this is definitely the movie to do it with. It's a solid like 6, 7 out of 10 on that front. On the story front, I mean. Animation front, it's 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10. But on the story front, it's like a 6 or 7 out of 10, I would say. You don't watch this movie for the story. You watch it because it's pretty.
It's stylish as all hell.
Pretty to the beholder. I still say the character designs on a lot of those aliens are ugly. So ugly.
Yeah. The art direction, I think, was kind of weird, but like the principal characters look nice at least.
I kind of like some of the ugly alien designs. I could do without some, but my tolerance is a little higher than that.
Yeah, this movie does have a lot of funny moments. Like, I liked the little scalpers at the beginning who were trying to sell race tickets, and he obviously was like, no, get out of my way. No, get out of my way. I'm competing in the race. Why would I want to buy a ticket? And they were just like, fuck you! That is our thoughts on Redline, ladies and gentlemen. Before we go, we must now spin the wheel!
All right. Same deal as before. I'm just going to keep clicking until somebody tells me to stop, and I'll stop clicking. And it's all Heather's shows right now, so let's go.
Yeah.
And stop.
Stopping. Hands off the mess. Overlord. Oh my god.
Overlord.
That was so close to Promised Neverland.
Ooh. Yes. Overlord. I was actually really kind of hoping for this one.
And this one's available on Crunchyroll, I think.
Crunchyroll, it's available. The first season's available also on Hulu, but the first few seasons are free on Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
The current one, though, you have to pay for.
So, thank you so much for joining us. Tune in next time when we discuss Overlord.